So, Bruntz, speaking of looking out, you'll support my man crush on Coach Dvorak after watching week 1, right? With Bear and Bullock, who was really, really just wrecking guys. Like, you're on that Rob Dvorak train, right?
Yes. I think he's a great position coach. Yes.
Oh,
okay.
right.
Good talk. No,
I didn't know if there was a follow-up to that.
It's our show, but it's your segment, so you can do whatever you want with that, Bruntz.
I didn't mean to go. Bo Pelini's a good football player. I think,
or I don't know. What'd you think?
You saw the game. Yeah. So no, I mean, I think what they've done with the two top guys, I mean, with Bayer and Bullock, and I think people forget that Bullock's only in his second year as a linebacker.
Yeah.
And I think he's done a really nice job with those two. I am kind of curious to see if they can get that second group up closer to the first group. I mean, I think that's kind of because Thompson and Shavers are kind of different players from the other guys that you notice it a little bit when they make that change. But no, I mean, I think you have to give Dvorak a ton of credit with the development he's done with Bullock. I mean, he's a guy that never had played linebacker, was kind of closer to the line of scrimmage last year, even though he was still playing a little bit undersized, I think. And I think he'd say that too. But no, I mean, I think those two guys, Bayer and Bullock, are going to have a pretty big impact on the game, not only from being able to clean up stuff when Sanders gets out of the pocket, but also just the narrow crossing stuff and kind of handling the middle of the field, because I think that's one area that kind of concerns me a little bit, actually. With the way that Colorado does things.
Bruntz, is there an area where you feel particularly confident? Colorado, I know everybody points to the defensive line against that offensive line. Are you on that bandwagon, or is there something where you're like, I think Nebraska got a huge advantage here?
No, I mean, I'm. It's a tight bandwagon on the defensive line with the offensive line. You kind of got your arm around somebody else to kind of move to the side to give other people room. I mean,
gonna be a bump. Gonna hit a bump. Hang on.
Yeah. It's interesting. Like,
it's like that press elevator. If you wait too long, get downstairs.
Oh God, there was like a special kind of BO in that thing on Saturday. It was bad. Like, I felt so bad for those old ladies that have to run the elevator. It's like sitting in this cloud of big man stink for like 4 hours.
Oh man, I'm gonna dry heave and throw up in my mouth. That's awesome.
Yeah, just kind of in the air. It's like the 4th of July after the fireworks are all done. There's just like a haze. But no, I think it's been interesting. Listen, guys, I'm trying to segue here.
Oh, I just know exactly what you're talking about, and there's been multiple times, Bruntz, your boy will opt for either the service elevator or the stairs. I'm just not doing it because I literally will be the guy that like will like dry heave, like will choke.
Yeah.
I got.
This smells delicious.
I do the stairs sometimes too, and it's usually a pretty good test of my fitness coming out of the off season, and it's never pretty.
Only do it when you're going down, not the whole up thing. Yeah.
I go up occasionally, and I always think to myself, I'm like, man, if I have like a heart attack in this thing, nobody's gonna find me for like 3 hours. So I stopped doing that just in case.
Yeah, if the service elevator gets stuck, I'm screwed. I hope they need a whole bunch of hot dogs and new buns on the reload, because I'll be in there for a minute.
You should ask Schaefer sometime about his service elevator experience. It's not good.
Well, it makes a lot of noise. I don't know if it's always worth it, but at least I'm not with anybody ever.
Yeah. No, I think back to your question, like it's been interesting kind of reading about, what's come out of Colorado. this week, and obviously Nebraska's defensive line has their attention, as it should. I think their feeling over there in the Mountain Time Zone is that they've improved quite a bit at the offensive line spot, or that they've made enough improvements that they can kind of hold up there. And I'm curious to see that be tested on Saturday, because I mean, you guys watched that North Dakota State game. You know, guys were getting some pressure, and you know, I think last year Nebraska, you know, I think they really kind of controlled things up front for the first 2.5 quarters. And, you know, the big thing is if you flush Sanders, can you get him on the ground? Because he'll back up 20 yards to throw at 10. And, you know, that's the challenge is, you know, can you get him on the ground and not let him run around for 7 seconds and make your secondary have to really work to cover those skill position players.
So, Bruntz, who has the bigger story Saturday night when you guys have got to make whatever deadlines there are for like being online, which kind of made up, but will it be Nebraska's ground and pound or Colorado's lack of a run game that will be more of the storyline Saturday night late?
Well, I think it has to be Nebraska's ability to run the ball, because you know I would be very surprised if Colorado comes in and runs the ball with any kind of success against Nebraska.
If they do, Nebraska's lost. That's for sure. That's why I'm
correct.
Yeah.
No, I think it's I think it's about whether or not Nebraska can control the clock, whether they can move the ball on the ground and stay on schedule. I mean, I think you're not getting conservative, but I think Nebraska would be very well served to really dedicate itself to running the ball, keep Colorado's offense off the field, and just kind of lean on them. I mean, I think at times they were trying to do that last year, but never were able to do that with any kind of success because of the turnovers and everything else that happened. But, you know, I think in some ways, you know, Marcus Satterfield has to be okay with just continuing to chip away. And I think last week against UTEP, there were times when, you know, Nebraska probably could have early on, you know, gotten a little pass happy and things like that. But I think, you know, a little bit of discretion in the play calling is probably a good thing, and just kind of using those 4 backs, using Dowdell again, because I think he deserves to be in there in spite of the fumble last week. So I think that's got to be more of the story late on Saturday night is what Nebraska was able to get done on the ground, because that's also the way that you make things really easy for your freshman quarterback, is if he's having to convert 3rd and 3 versus, you know, 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8, and those kinds of situations.
I think we're kind of misremembering too, because watching that game Sunday night from last year, we forget how emotionally spent and physically tired Shedeur Sanders looked going in at the half, right? Like, we gave them life in the second half playing the way that we did. But that first half, I was thinking to myself, Kyle, I hope Colorado has some depth. Like, I don't think I'm misremembering that, right? Nebraska has a chance, if you look at depth, to be better than a year ago in that first half, don't they?
Yeah, I mean, what was it, 13-7 midway through the third?
I mean, is that too much? Like, go watch that first half last year and them going off the field at the half. It was whoa, go Big Red.
Nebraska was getting after him too. I mean, and you know, the context that you have to remember, that's really important to kind of remember about last year was, I mean, you know, Colorado goes just gangbusters on TCU, and I mean, we know what TCU ended up being, but at least the perception at the time was like, whoa, like, you know, this offense, look out. And you know, in the second game of Tony White's tenure, and you know, that's also an important piece of context. You know, Nebraska really kind of, you know, was able to hang in there and really kind of dominate in some ways. early on in that game. And you're right. I mean, I think people kind of do forget that, and the final score being what it was, I think kind of you forget about the first 2.5 quarters of things. And Nebraska was doing that, being put in some pretty lousy situations by its offense and its special teams.
100%.
I mean, it was pretty bad. I mean, when you just kind of look at the drive chart from what they put together last season.
I was cheering over field goal attempts. I was like, wow, thank God they held them to a field goal. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I mean, that's kind of that's the way it was. I mean, I think, pretty much everybody that was, on the field last year for Nebraska's defense is back. I think they're in a better place to be a little bit more dominant. And, I think if Nebraska is able to get home with the front four and, maybe even three sometimes, I mean, I think that's, you'll take that every day. And I think even last year they were able to do that without having to dedicate a ton of extra blitzers. It seemed like it didn't seem like they were particularly exotic last season against Colorado. It was just winning one-on-ones up front.
We're talking Michael Bruntz, Husker 24/7. Bruntz, let's take Dylan Raiola out of it. If Nebraska wins on Saturday against Colorado, who do you think needs to be the MVP?
I mean, I don't know that it's one guy. I mean, I think that running back group, the four-headed monster, needs to have a good game. I mean, that's kind of, the way I look at it. I think there's an opportunity for Nebraska to run the ball. As much as we kind of talked last week about the potential for quick 3-and-outs, and then kind of the ball control pounding running game. I mean, I think there's the potential for that this week as well. I think that's the recipe. So I'd say the running back group. I mean, I don't care who it is out of that group, but a couple of those guys need to have good games if Nebraska's going to have a chance.
Bruntz, if the special teams is going to continue to do whatever you thought you saw on Saturday, what will it be?
I don't know. It was. I don't know about you guys, but was it strange to see returns? Like the amount of space that was there.
Yes, it was.
On punt returns.
Yeah,
it was weird. Right?
Well, they have half the return yardage in one game that they had all of last year.
Right. Like I was like, oh wow, he's actually going to catch it and run with it. Look at that. No, I think you need to kind of do that. I mean, the field position piece of it's going to be huge. I thought Buschini hit it pretty well. I mean, I know he kind of had a rough game last year in Colorado. And, the kicking piece of it, I mean, we'll see what it looks like this week. I mean, I don't know if Alvano's more healthy or what that kind of looks like right now. But, I think for special teams, you kind of need to just be even. Like, don't take anything off the table. If you bring something to the table, that's even better. But, just kind of be that third.
Don't take anything off the table. Hey,
yeah.
Just do what you did, guys.
Yeah, right. Like
it's kind of how I feel.
You just got to be table guys. Just don't take anything off of it. Bring something a little bit if you want to, but I think that's what I'd like to see. I mean, I think if you could get a big play somehow, even better. But I just think you need to be steady there. That's all I'm looking for.
Michael, is there a score that you're thinking about that, like, hey, if it kind of stays in this range, Nebraska played the game they wanted to play, versus if it gets over or under that spot that you're like, this maybe didn't go the way Nebraska was hoping?
Yeah, I mean, if it gets into a shootout, I don't think that works well for Nebraska. I mean, I think
so, like north of 30,
like even with their depth.
Yeah, I mean, I just even with the depth. I mean, I think the thing that you want to avoid most if you're Nebraska are like those huge splash plays that take the crowd out of it. That kind of get you guys have been there. You know that feeling in the stadium of here we go again. Like that, you can feel it in the air, kind of like the big man stink in the elevator, bring things all the way around. Like you want to avoid that. And I think if if it's in the 20s, if it's even in the low 30s, I mean, I think Nebraska can still be okay. I mean, I think you just don't want to get into a real big back and forth track meet in Colorado, because that's kind of the way that they're going to do it. I mean, I think if Nebraska comes out of this one on top, it's part of it's going to be because Tony White's defense was good enough and shut Colorado down, maybe turned them over a time or two. And so that's why I think like a little bit of a lower score, I think that benefits Nebraska.
Bruntz, who do you like in Texas and Michigan?
That's a good question. The Marge Simpson, just hope everybody has a good time line comes to mind. I think Texas. I mean, I think I don't know what to make of Michigan yet. I kind of figured last week that Fresno was going to be able to go in there and give them a decent game. It just feels like Michigan just, you had a ton of turnover. It still feels like a program that's kind of trying to find itself and get its footing a little bit. And I don't know that Texas is in that same category right now. So I would lean Texas in that one.
What about Arkansas and Oklahoma State?
I watched a little bit of Arkansas, and that offense is fun. I like the potential that they've got there. So I would lean Arkansas, just because it feels like you probably couldn't get that point total high enough. So I would lean Hogs, but they also feel like a team a little bit where it's still a little bit early to be able to say definitively that they're just going to go out and blow the doors off of teams.
All right, Cyclones and Hawkeyes.
Pain. That's the first thought that comes to mind. I'll go Iowa a little bit. I'll lean Iowa. I don't know that I'm buying that they're all of a sudden an offensive juggernaut, but
well, the total is only 35, so that's it. Vegas says no.
that feels a little high.
No, we're living in a new world, Iowa, where they can score touchdowns.
Yeah,
come on, Bruntz.
Yeah, they got Warren Moon and Haywood Jeffries on offense now.
Wow, that's a great pull.
You like that pull?
Haywood, nice.
I would lean Iowa there. 35. Geez, that still feels like a lot of points, but I think Iowa can actually maybe do some things this year offensively, and that's a very, very low bar.
I know Michigan State struggled and Chillis didn't look great, but they go to Maryland. It's kind of a weird early Big Ten matchup. Do you like Michigan State going forward with Jonathan Smith?
I think he's a great coach. I think it might take a little bit of time to get things off the ground there for him, but I mean, you look at what he did at Oregon State, which is a very tough place to win. They by the end of his time there, I mean, they were really they were a team that felt like they were kind of trending towards like a Big Ten, like old school Big Ten mindset, where they could really run the ball. I think he's a pretty good developer of quarterbacks. I think that works out. I think it probably takes a little bit of time to get everything in order up there, but I don't know. The one of the programs in the Big Ten that I have the toughest time with is Maryland, because they've always got a few guys that you kind of look up since Mike Locksley's been there, and it's like, oh, they're at 6-7 wins, and I wouldn't even have thought that. So that's probably a pretty sneaky tough matchup early on for Michigan State. I think Jonathan Smith long term will be good there, but I don't know. I don't really have really strong feelings either way on that game.
All right. Well, since we're just going all things expert, Michael Bruntz, this one's tricky. Tricky. Like the folks in Lawrence traveled to Champaign. It's just 5.5. Does that look right to you?
It feels like a little low. Like
doesn't it?
I feel like Kansas is probably like 2 scores better, right?
Is Illinois going to win that game, and all of a sudden we're going to be afraid on Friday night?
Watch out!
You know it.
Watch out for the Illini.
85 Bears.
Bielema's back.
That's our guy, Michael Bruntz, Husker 24/7. Bruntz, we appreciate the time as always. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Brunsey.
All right, see you guys. Yep.
We'll be back from Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next.